Hi, welcome to part 2 of the series. Today we're going to talk about peer review. More specifically, what is it and why does it matter to us as students? A little bit about myself is I'm a lifelong peer reviewer. I run a nonprofit that does a lot of work in the West Coast and the East Coast, and peer review is truly the engine that makes it work. Very simply defined, peer review is the evaluation of work by others in the same field. Usually, the evaluators are at a similar level of expertise, and they're working together to discuss very specific components of a project. We're not going to talk too much about this in academia, but it really is the foundation on how knowledge is created. Every time a book, article, or publication gets submitted, it gets debated whether it should be accepted, denied, or revised. So just something to keep in the back of your mind. First of all, let's think about what are some ways you have used peer review before. So let's take a minute and comment below. Here are some examples that maybe you've listed. These are very common in K through 12 setting. Class projects in a variety of formats. So really, teachers like to hand this out to assess your team and what was kind of the work within that team. So who did the most work? Who did the least work? What were the roles of each person? How much time did they commit? And it's truly advantageous in a formative manner for you to kind of grade yourself and the work of others. And very commonly, if there's like a speech or public presentation, this is used to kind of critique the other groups and kind of the audience offers input. Really, it's used a lot in final papers and stuff like that. And at UCSD in particular, we have writing sequences like MMW that instead of expecting you to just turn in a final paper at the end of the quarter, they kind of guide you through the process. So you do 5 smaller assignments that guide you through this process. So maybe first you use a peer review to come up with a topic, then you use peer review to do a literature search, then peer review to do a rough draft, and so forth. Peer review all the way. So what's great about peer review is it's kind of being in a state of advancement by technology that's really pushing the boundaries of what we think was peer review. So now peer review could really stretch beyond a classroom. Instead of having maybe 10 students review something or 100 students, we could have thousands of students. And kind of now we have a global reach thanks to the internet. And now it's anytime, anywhere you could get feedback. So it's kind of asynchronous. And now we have platforms such as Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Hangouts, emails, video chats, and so forth. We have so much freedom and engagement that could result in peer review. So kind of now we could have different input and outputs, different ways we upload or send information, and different ways we receive that input back. So instead of maybe just turning in a paper, you could submit a video, a brochure, an audio recording. The sky's the limit now. So now let's be very specific. How can you use it? And I want to demonstrate this by showing ways I've used peer review recently. So here's a recent paper I submitted. I like to do a lot of writing, but before I turn it into a journal or newspaper, I want to have a lot of ideas. So for this, I've had over 200 comments from different peers and a few thousand revisions over a period of 8 months. So peer review was really instrumental in helping me go back and forth and debate with my reviewers and really have a much stronger paper to turn in. What's great about peer review is it could also be used beyond the classroom. I want to show a recent research project I'm working on. All right, so this is mass spec. I'm not going to really explain what it is. Basically, I have a few thousand data points. And this actually shows the skin chemistry of a patient that has an illness. As you can see, there's a lot of information and complexity. So it's really important I get the answer right before a judgment is made. So with peer review, I'm able to talk with other students and researchers and really discuss what I think the answer is and what's happening inside his or her body. Peer review could also be used to organize a team, and I recommend this for different student organization leaders, other nonprofits and startups. We use peer review like before a curriculum goes live in the field or before we submit a grant application. Here, this has been used to strengthen a team. So at one of our student organizations at another campus, they use it to construct a student organization constitution and talk about their norms, their rules, and very specifically define like what each person does, and they use peer review before making it final to discuss what they want to see in their group. Peer review could also be used in learning, so whether that's tutoring, you could kind of assess what you need to know. So maybe you work out a physics problem or an organic chemistry mechanism, and you actually say what you need help with. I don't know how to do this. And kind of peer review could kind of identify what that weakness is, and you could resolve it in a team setting. So if you were to implement peer review, what are some best practices that we recommend? First of all, clarity always wins. Talk about what you're looking for. So, especially talk about when you're going to submit a request for review. When do you want it back? Do you want someone to write on using red pen on your printed out paper? Do you want them to comment on the email attachment you sent them? What's kind of the format of this peer review? It really helps if you have some sort of rubric that kind of sets like expectations clearly. This is one example I'll link in the video notes. And we could talk about, these are divided into different components. And it's sort of like a Likert scale where you could kind of quantify what you want to be improved. Another thing that I really want or would like to see is if you kind of specify what you want the evaluators to look at. So you could kind of, before you submit it, say, my introduction I think could be stronger. I don't know how to back up my claim using this paragraph. So on line 17, I'm not sure how to express this argument. What are some ways you recommend? So specificity always wins. If you need particular help, please state it. And what's great is if you see the work of others. So when maybe you turn in your peer review, you might assess the work of other people. Really take that advantage to look at how they did the work and take notes on ways you could kind of make your work better. And of course, plan appropriate time for you to implement all the edits you receive back and incorporate that into that final outcome, whether that's a project, a presentation, or so forth. And that's it for our introduction to peer review. If you have any questions, here's my work email. I hope this helps. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.